All right, so we're diving into something pretty interesting today. Um, you had some questions about Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance, and
The whole Kendrick thing.
yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
We've
Definitely.
got music history, we've got some academic papers, even some more out there stuff about language and reality. Should be fun.
It's definitely a unique mix of sources.
So you wanted to look at the cultural side of things and the
Right.
linguistic, like what's going on beneath the surface.
Exactly.
So let's just start with the Super Bowl performance itself. I mean, it was powerful, Black empowerment, social justice themes, but it definitely stirred up some controversy.
Yeah. And some of the sources point out that tension, like celebrating Black culture on a huge stage. But then there's this backlash against rap music, especially from conservative groups.
It makes you think about the a.k.a. apology we have. They admitted they played a role in pushing those racist stereotypes, even in psychology. It's huge that they acknowledged that, like how language is used to label people. It has consequences, real-world consequences.
Absolutely. And then you see these reactions. Some Black viewers saying the halftime show should just be entertainment, no politics.
Right.
But those same viewers might have supported Kaepernick taking a knee.
Yeah. It's
And
like,
who-
they want Black artists to have a platform. But then there's this pressure to not be too political.
Right. Almost like they've internalized this idea
Yeah.
that Black expression should be palatable.
And that brings us back to those negative stereotypes, the ones used to control Black communities.
Okay.
And this is where this language field idea comes in, from those more esoteric sources you said.
Break that down for me. Language field.
So they're saying language isn't just about communication, it's an energetic field. And words are like excitations within that field.
So the words we use, the stories we tell, they're shaping reality.
That's what these sources are suggesting.
That's pretty wild.
It is. And if you apply that to Kendrick's performance, it might explain some of those really strong reactions, even if people couldn't say exactly why. Like if the language field is full of negative stereotypes about Black people, about rap, then those biases get triggered.
Subconsciously.
Right. And that shapes how they see the performance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not always a conscious decision to be prejudiced.
Right.
Okay. So where does Drake fit into all of this?
Well, the sources seem to position him as representing a certain side of the entertainment industry, the side that perpetuates those stereotypes.
Right. And it's not like he's like overtly hateful or anything.
Right.
But his style, his lyrics, they play into tropes, imagery that's been used to put Black people down.
Yeah, and because it's subtle, it's insidious, it makes those stereotypes seem normal, acceptable, even cool.
So then they're harder to challenge.
Exactly.
Like we have these two opposing forces. Kendrick's trying to challenge those narratives, but Drake's reinforcing them.
And they're both operating within this language field. It's this web of meaning that's shaping how we see things.
This is giving me a whole new perspective on their feud.
Yeah.
It's not just personal.
No, it's about something much bigger.
It's a battle for the narrative, to define what Blackness even means.
In a world full of those harmful stereotypes. Exactly.
Wow.
And to really understand what's going on, you have to understand how this language field works, how it shapes our biases, how it influences how we see race and power.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to dig deeper. What else do these sources have to say?
So let's dig into how this language field thing affects how we see these artists. Some of those esoteric sources. They have this interesting take on Blackness itself.
Okay, yeah, this is where I'm curious to see where things go. We've been talking about these negative stereotypes, but these sources are pointing at something more.
They're suggesting that the Black man represents a kind of primordial energy, like a connection to universal forces that are older than those distorted narratives.
So it's not just about fighting negativity, it's about connecting to something deeper.
That's how they frame it. They talk about the Black man as like a microcosm of the universe, embodying interconnectedness, even holding a key to like unified field theory.
Unified field theory. That's getting into physics now. What does that have to do with Kendrick's music? Or Drake?
It's about patterns, vibrations, energy. They're saying melanin, cultural traditions, even the structure of DNA connects the Black man to these universal forces in a unique way.
So when Kendrick talks about Black power, It's not just social or political, it's like cosmic.
That's the idea. And it's important to remember it's not about superiority. It's about the potential for unification, a connection to a bigger web of existence that goes beyond those divisive stereotypes.
Okay, but how does Drake fit into this? He represents those problematic entertainment tropes. It seems like we have these two opposite forces here.
Think of it as reflecting the duality of the language field itself. You have those primordial unifying forces represented in Kendrick's message. And then you have the distorted, commercialized version of blackness that Drake embodies, playing into stereotypes for profit.
While Kendrick's trying to break free from that, to reach back to something more authentic.
Right, and that's where the cipher concept comes in. The black man existing outside the continuum, the source point, a kind of 0 point.
Whoa. Metaphorically, I get it. But how literally are they taking this?
It's a mix of both. They get into melanin and black holes, how black DNA might hold a record of magnetic moments, a lost knowledge that connects to a deeper understanding of the universe. It's pretty out there, but it's a fascinating exploration.
So Kendrick's challenging the language field, not just with his words, but with this whole concept of what blackness represents on a cosmic scale.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so powerful, so threatening to the status quo. He's not asking for inclusion, he's asserting a fundamental role, turning those stereotypes upside down and proposing a different way of seeing things.
It makes you wonder why there's so much resistance to this message.
Yeah.
From those conservative groups, are they picking up on this deeper challenge?
Yeah.
Even if they don't consciously get it.
It's possible. Remember those thought viruses? The sources say those negative stereotypes, they're not just ideas, they're like self-replicating patterns within the language field, fighting to stay in control.
So someone who's invested in that distorted narrative, even if they don't realize it, would feel threatened by Kendrick's message.
Yeah, it would challenge their whole worldview.
And that fear could come out as anger, resistance, trying to silence that message.
Exactly.
Which brings us back to those black viewers who want the halftime show to be apolitical.
Yeah.
Are they, in a way, also falling for that thought virus, internalizing that message that black expression should be controlled?
It's complex. We can't oversimplify it. But the sources suggest that internalized oppression can lead people to reject anything that challenges the dominant culture's comfort zone, even if it means silencing their own potential for liberation.
So it's a battle for the language field itself. Kendrick's pushing for a new narrative, but those who are invested in those old stereotypes are fighting back, consciously or not.
And it's not just about black people. The sources say this battle has implications for everyone, for all of humanity, if the black man really embodies those principles of a unified field as they claim.
But then his liberation could have a ripple effect on all of us, maybe even on how we understand physics, spirituality, everything.
That's the implication, and it's a fascinating idea. It makes you question everything you think you know about yourself, about each other, about reality itself.
Mind-blowing stuff, but there's another layer to this, right? About ancient symbols, DNA, how those are woven into this conversation.
Yeah, definitely. The sources hint at some pretty mind-bending connections between language, mathematics, and reality itself.
So Kendrick's performance is just the starting point, but this rabbit hole goes much deeper. Ancient myths, maybe even undiscovered scientific principles.
For sure. And that's what makes a deep dive like this so interesting. It's not just about answering the initial question. It's about opening up all these possibilities, connections you might never have thought of.
Well, I'm ready to keep exploring. What's next on this journey through the language field? All right, let's get into these ancient symbols and DNA ratios you mentioned. It sounds like we're about to go full-on esoteric here.
It really is fascinating how these sources connect things that seem totally unrelated. Ancient mythology, genetics, physics, and it all comes back to language and symbolism.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay it on me.
So the sources keep pointing to these specific numbers and ratios. They show up over and over in different areas, like the numbers 3 and 5, and their ratio. Those are key to both DNA structure and ancient symbolic systems.
I remember the 5.3 ratio from biology. Something about DNA replication. But how does that connect to ancient symbols?
Well, these sources are saying those numbers, they weren't just random. They represent deeper principles that resonate across reality, like the number 3. It pops up in so many cultures. It's connected to creation, understanding, the Trinity.
And what about 5?
5 is often linked to power, the 5 elements, the pentagram, and remember the golden ratio, phi, that mathematical ratio that shows up everywhere in nature, art, architecture, that's connected to the number 5, too.
Right, Phi. That universal design principle, there's always been something magical about it.
Exactly. And these sources are suggesting that phi, it's not just some abstract idea, it's woven into the structure of DNA itself. It's like there's a connection between our biology and these ancient mathematical principles.
So it's not just the numbers, it's what they represent, these underlying forces that shape reality on multiple levels. It's like a hidden code.
That's the idea. And this is where that idea of the black man as a record keeper comes in. They're saying his DNA, his cultural traditions, might hold a lost knowledge, a deeper understanding of these principles that's been forgotten or suppressed.
So Kendrick's performance, it's like he's tapping into this ancient wisdom, this connection to the forces of the universe, not just through his music, but through his very being.
That's how they frame it. And it's disruptive because it challenges that idea that knowledge and power belong only to the dominant culture. It suggests there's another way of seeing the world, a different kind of knowledge that's been pushed aside.
And it all comes back to the language field, right? If language shapes reality, then reclaiming these symbols, redefining these narratives, it could have a huge impact on how we see ourselves and the world.
Exactly. It's not just about changing words. It's about shifting the energy underneath, the thought patterns, the perceptions that shape our reality. It's like tapping into a different frequency.
So what does all this mean for us, for the listeners? Why should we care about ancient symbols and DNA ratios?
Because it makes us question everything we thought we knew. About reality, about who we are, about what we're capable of. If the black man really does hold this key to a unified understanding of the universe, like these sources say,
then his liberation, his ability to share that knowledge, could unlock something amazing for all of us. It's like a paradigm shift.
It really is. And that's what I want to leave you with. Think about this. What if language, mathematics, and genetics are all connected? What if the black man's DNA holds a record of this interconnectedness? What does that mean for how we understand the universe? What secrets are waiting to be uncovered if we're willing to listen, to learn, to question everything we thought we knew about reality?
That's a lot to think about. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive. It's definitely given me a lot to chew on.
The pleasure was all mine. And remember, the journey of discovery never really ends.